Hello, welcome to class. I hope that the words we went over last time have been very useful to you. Today, I thought instead of going over more definitions, that today we would focus more on different smaller parts of words, and some entomology, the history of words, and where the words that we use come from. So today we're not going to be looking at whole words, we're going to be looking at parts of words. Okay? So, the first one we're going to look at is a very small part of a word. In fact, it's just a single letter. And that letter is the letter A. And when the letter A is used in the front of a word, it can sometimes mean without. So, if we see a word like amoral, that means without morals. Or atheist, the A meaning without, and theist meaning God, without God, atheist. Or if we have anorexia, rexia meaning appetite, or norexia meaning appetite, we have anorexia, without appetite. And then we have a word like abiotic. That is another medical term, but bio means life, so abiotic means without life. And you see this a lot. This is just a very short list of words, but if you see it, it either means without, or sometimes it means not. Okay, and we will run across this some more in some of the other words that we are going to look at. The next part of a word to look at is tom. Now, this part of the word means to cut or to segment, divide into pieces. So if you have an appendectomy, you are having your appendix cut out. Another word that uses it is entomology. Now, entomology is the study of insects. And if you look at an insect, most of them are divided into sections. You'll have a head and a thorax, or different segments of the insect. So that's where the tom comes in entomology, is talking about those different sections of a bug or an insect. Another is anatomy. We think of this word as dealing with the body, and this word comes from the fact that when they first studied bodies, they cut up dead bodies to actually find out how the human body was put together, and that's where we get the word anatomy. Another word that we use is tome. When we're talking about a book, a large book usually, we use the word tome. And that comes from the fact that originally, when someone talked about a tome, they were talking about a book that was a part of a larger collection of books. So, if you had one of the Harry Potter books, that would be a tome because it belongs to a larger section. So it was like you're talking about one section. dichotomy also uses this prefix. Dichotomy is when there are two things that seem to be very opposite from each other. They are split in half. And you would say that someone who lived part of their day as a banker and another part of their day as a construction worker, that is a dichotomy. He is split in two, between two different things. And today, when we use the word dichotomy, usually it means two very opposite things, like being a banker and being a DJ, are two things that are in opposition to each other. But initially, the word dichotomy just meant something that was split in two, splitting his life in half, or splitting an idea. But today it means usually that those two ideas are in opposition to each other. Now, another word is epitome. Now, epitome usually means to us that if something epitomizes something, it is a typical example, usually like the best example. So, if you were going to talk about a person's life who was generous and kind, and you wanted to epitomize their life, you would tell a story about one time where they were generous. And that story would epitomize his entire life. It would stand in and represent the entirety of his life. So it's as if you took that story and you cut it out and separated it and let it represent the entirety of that person's life. So the last one here is atom. Now, an atom is, in classic literature, the smallest piece of matter that can no longer be divided and can no longer be cut. So we see, when we combine the A, which can mean without or not, cut. So atom means the thing which cannot be cut. The next word, or part of a word, is auto. And auto means self. So, the first word here is autonomy. Autonomy means self-governance or independence, the ability to rule oneself. Autonomy. Autograph is someone's signature. Auto meaning self, and graph meaning to write. And automobile, auto meaning self, and mobile meaning motion or moving. And we have autobiography, which is similar to autograph, but the word bio is in there. So auto is self, bio is life, and graph is to write. An autobiography is a story that you write about your life. Another word is autopsy. Now today we think of autopsy as a criminal investigation where you cut up a body. And that comes from the original use of the word, which was an eyewitness, someone who has seen it for themselves. Auto meaning self, and psi meaning to see or to look. To see for yourself. Autopsy. And then automatic, something that runs by itself. Automatic. The next word is nomo. And nomo means law or to govern. So the first word we see that uses that is astronomy. Now, astronomy is, astro means star, and nonomy means the laws. So we're talking about the laws that govern the stars and studying them. The next is autonomy. Now, we saw that over here. Auto meaning self, noma meaning govern. So autonomy is to govern oneself. Metronome is the device that keeps time in music and helps the orchestra or the player govern and measure their time. The other one is anomic down here. And this uses the a, meaning without, and nomic, meaning law or governance. And anomic means basically someone who does not think that the laws apply to them, or they feel as if the laws of society do not apply to them. And this can mean in a lawless manner, but it can also mean that you don't feel like you belong, and you don't feel like the society that you live in was created for you, and you feel lost and outside. Anomic. Another use of the word is in Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy is a book in the Bible that recounts the story of the law being given to the children of Israel. And the word deutero means two, so this literally means the second law. And then we have the word taxonomy. Taxonomy means the laws that govern the way in which ideas are organized, such as the genus and species classifications and the kingdom and the phylum for animals. That is a taxonomy that governs the way in which animals and plants are categorized. Okay? Is this making sense? Good. Good. It's very fascinating. I love the origins of words and finding out that words that we use every day are made up of smaller parts. The next one is gen, which means birth. And we see that in words like genetics, genealogy, the study of your family history, eugenics, which is basically the study of the optimal way in which to breed humans, basically. It does not have a very good connotation in our society. But eugenics is the study of making a better human through breeding. Not a good thing. Also, the word genital comes from there. A lot of these have to do with human birth, and so those obviously have a big part of that. Genesis, or Genesis means the beginning of something, the birth of something, the creation of something. So we see that there. And then we have the word congenital. And congenital is something that was acquired at the time of birth, usually in conjunction to something like an abnormality in the birth that comes from the genetics. So that is congenital. The next one is chronos. Now chronos means time. And the first one we have is chronic. If something is chronic, that means that it happens all the time. If someone is a chronic liar, that means they are pretty much always lying, and you can't believe a word that comes out of their mouth. So chronic is another word for constant, basically. Another is anachronism. An anachronism is something that does not belong in that time. If you were driving a car down the streets in Roman times, that car would be an anachronism. It also can mean something that is out of date, kind of old-fashioned, but really old-fashioned, like wearing a top hat in today's society would be an anachronism. Chronological. Chronos meaning time. Logical meaning to put into order. So if something is chronological, it is sorted by the time in which it occurred, like on a timeline. Another word is chronicle. A chronicle is a history or a record of the time passing. Several newspapers are named Chronicle, meaning that they are recording the things that are happening at that time. And then finally we have synchronize. When you synchronize your watches, you are making sure that their time is the same. And sync means same. So same time. The next is alter. And alter means other. So someone who is altruistic, or altruism, is someone who thinks of others and helps others. Altruism. Or alternate. When you alternate, you start with one and you skip over another, and then you pick another. So you're like skipping over, you're choosing one and rejecting the other. Then you're choosing one and you're rejecting the other. And you're alternating from one that you pick and the other that you don't. Alteration. Alteration is to change from one thing to another. And finally we have alter ego, which is your other self. The next is trans, which means across. So we have the word transparent, which is to see across or to see through. So it is transparent. Transfix is another. Trans meaning across, and fix meaning to hold in place. And this is the imagery of like a pin or a stake going through something and holding it down so it doesn't move. And we have transmit, which is to carry across. We have transgression, which carries the idea of across. Ingression is to walk but it is the idea of to walk too far, to go too far, to go past the boundary, to go across the boundary, transgression. And then transplant is to take something from one place and to put it in another, to go across and place it down. And then transcend is to go across, and to go over, and to go above, and to go higher. A lot of words involved with traveling. And so we have words like transcontinental railroad, or Trans Am, or Trans-Pacific. So you see a lot of words involved in travel, and airplanes and airliners and stuff like that with the word trans in it. And finally we have the word astro, which means star. And so here we have astronomy again, which we saw before, the rules and governance of the stars. We have disaster, because it was thought back in medieval times and before that the stars governed our lives, and specifically if you saw a bright star, it was a portent of disaster, or was a portent of something bad that was going to happen. So it was considered a disaster. Asterisk. When you see an asterisk printed on a page or on the screen, it is a star shaped. So that is where we get the word asterisk. And then we have the word that I thought was very interesting, Astroturf. And Astroturf is the fake grass that they use in stadiums for football games. And the reason it was called Astroturf is because it was first used in the Astrodome in Houston. And the Astrodome got its name because of the big space center that is there. So, even though it doesn't seem like it, Astroturf derives its name from the stars. So, etymology of words is very, very interesting. Words change their meaning, sometimes slightly and sometimes drastically. And it's always good to know where words come from. It certainly helps you in some spelling if you realize where the roots of some of these words come from. And you know there's, you can get a pretty good guess of how that part of that word should be spelled. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll leave these with you to go over. And we'll do this again next time. Okay? Thanks for coming. I hope you learned a lot.